Alright, so today we're diving into what is, no joke, one of the greatest scientific detective stories ever told. It's a tale of how a methodical, step-by-step process unraveled a mystery that had humanity stumped for thousands of years. Let's get right into it.
For most of human history, malaria was basically a ghost. It would show up, bringing these terrible fevers and bone-shaking chills, but nobody knew where it came from. The prime suspect? The very air people were breathing. Something they literally couldn't escape.
I mean, just let that sink in. For over 2,000 years, some of the smartest people on the planet saw this deadly pattern playing out, but they could not answer the most fundamental question: what is causing this? It was one of the longest-running biological cold cases in history.
And the name they eventually gave it, malaria, literally comes from the Italian for bad air. The big theory was that some kind of poisonous vapor, a miasma, was rising up from swamps and making people sick. And look, it kind of made sense at the time, but as we're about to see, logic isn't enough in science. You need hard proof.
So, that brings us to Act 1 of our story, identifying the culprit. This is where we start following the clues that led scientists away from just blaming the air and into this incredible microscopic world hidden right inside our own bodies.
So here are the first real breadcrumbs the investigators had. One, the disease was super common around marshes, which, pointed a finger right at the swamp. But then, and this is a huge but, they did a crucial test. Some brave volunteers actually drank stagnant marsh water, and they didn't get sick. That one little experiment proved the bad water idea was a total dead end. It forced everyone to start thinking in a completely different direction.
For literally centuries, that bad air theory was pretty much the only game in town. Then, a piece of technology changed everything: the microscope. In 1878, a French army doctor named Laveran was looking at a blood sample from a malaria patient, and he saw something that just blew his mind: these tiny, living microorganisms that absolutely should not have been there.
Okay, so 5 years later, these same little critters, a type of parasite, were seen again, and finally given a name: Plasmodium. So we've got our prime suspect. But in science, having a suspect in the lineup isn't a conviction. It was time to build a rock-solid case and prove its guilt beyond any reasonable doubt.
And the tool they used to build that case? The biological method. It's this beautifully logical process. You observe something, you come up with a testable explanation, that's your hypothesis, you make a really specific prediction from it, and then you design an experiment to see if you're right.
And this leads to this incredibly powerful if-then statement. This isn't just a vague idea. It's a specific, totally measurable prediction. If Plasmodium is the cause, then every single person with malaria has to have it in their blood. If you can find just one patient who doesn't, boom, your whole theory just falls apart.
So, to put this to the test, scientists set up a brilliantly simple experiment. They got two groups: 100 people who definitely had malaria and a control group of 100 healthy people. They checked blood samples from every single person, and the results, well, they were undeniable. All 100 malaria patients had Plasmodium, and in the healthy group, 0. Not a single one.
That was it. That was the smoking gun. The evidence was just overwhelming, and the hypothesis was accepted as fact. The first huge part of this mystery was finally solved. The killer's identity wasn't a secret anymore. It was Plasmodium. But, just identifying the killer isn't the end of the story. How was this tiny parasite getting from one person to the next? So now it's time for Act 2, finding the accomplice.
This was the next great puzzle. Plasmodium can't fly, it can't just float through the air. It needed a delivery system, right? A mode of transport to get inside the human bloodstream. The hunt was officially on. So in 1883, a doctor named A.F.A. King put together a list of his observations, and a really clear pattern started to show up. People who slept outdoors, totally exposed, got sick more often. People who stayed near smoky fires, which we know repel insects, were protected. And people who used a physical barrier, a mosquito net, were the safest of all. All the clues were pointing to one tiny flying suspect.
This led to a brand new hypothesis. Mosquitoes were the transporters, and with that came a new testable prediction. If mosquitoes are carrying Plasmodium, then we should be able to find Plasmodium inside the mosquitoes right after they've bitten someone who's already sick.
And this is where a British doctor, Ronald Ross, conducted this absolutely brilliant series of experiments. First, he proved the deduction was right. He let a specific kind of mosquito, an Anopheles, bite a malaria patient, and sure enough, he found Plasmodium multiplying inside its stomach. But then, to prove transmission, he used sparrows.
He let mosquitoes bite sick sparrows, and then had those now infected mosquitoes bite healthy ones. The result? It was conclusive. The healthy sparrows got malaria.
And just like that, the whole criminal enterprise was exposed. Plasmodium was the killer, and the mosquito was the getaway driver, picking up the parasite from one victim and injecting it directly into the next. The case was finally completely closed.
So, the case is closed, but what's the real lesson here? It's not just about solving one single medical mystery. It's about understanding the incredible power of the method that made the whole thing possible in the first place. This wasn't one big eureka moment. It was a methodical, patient process of testing ideas against the real world, tweaking your theories based on what you find, and building a case one experiment at a time. It was this logical process that finally cracked a puzzle that had humanity completely stumped for millennia.
And the impact was absolutely staggering. Understanding how it spread wasn't just some cool academic fact, it was the key to preventing it. Just by controlling mosquito populations and using nets, we could finally fight back. In a lot of places, life expectancy shot up by as much as 35 years. That number, that represents the very real victory that came directly from this scientific win.
So, yeah, the story of malaria is so much more than just history. It's a testament to a powerful way of thinking that is still the engine driving discovery today. It took 2,000 years to figure out malaria, so it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What huge mysteries are we on the verge of solving right now using that very same method?